All right, hey everyone, it's Cece Underwood, your local Northeast Florida real estate expert for Jacksonville and St. Johns County. I am bringing to you your monthly market update for the month of March, March 2026. As we have shown up here, I'm going over this market summary. So this is everything in the real MLS. So this is Northeast Florida, not our surrounding areas, and this is for residential property. So it does not matter what you are seeing and hearing online. I'm literally showing you the data. So let's dig into the data because that is important. Let's talk about the real market. The number of listings. So this is residential, our total number of listings. Blue is our active number of listings. So overall, you are seeing the active number of listings. Yes, it dipped down a little bit, but you're going over here to like 12,000 to, 10,000. It's really not a huge deal, but these are active listings. And you're looking at our new listings as compared to sold listings. So what you're seeing here is the active listings are way up here in this 10 to $12,000 or 10 to 12,000 unit range. But look right here. This is what is actually, these are the new listings. These are new listings that came to the market in the month of March, 3,300 new listings. People are listing their homes. They 100% are listing their homes. Now, real estate is seasonal. So as you can tell here with our sold listings, it dips. Not a whole lot of sold listings going on in January, but here we are, we're entering our spring market. As you can see, this is from last year, sold listings, it kind of went up, but fairly flat, right? Fairly flat. You see, we increased in December. So contrary to what everybody thinks of, oh, you shouldn't list your home in the holidays, that is incorrect. In fact, many of these homes that went under contract that closed in December went under contract in November. So we typically do see an uptick in sales at the very end of the year here in Florida. I don't know what it's like anywhere else, but here in Northeast Florida, end of year is like a push because of homestead. A lot of people want to get in for the holidays. They want to get into their new homes to put their Christmas tree up. They want to spend the new year in their home. So there's all these like lovely feelings that are going on as reasons why people want to buy at the end of the year. And they want to get in time for homestead. Again, you have to close before the end of the year to take advantage of that for that next year. January takes a little bit of dip, but here it's not a whole overall, it's not a whole lot of change. So now let's go to listing prices, which are freaking all over the place. So the number of listings fairly steady, taking, a little dip here because again, this January, February, once you hit January post December, a lot of people, they're not necessarily thinking like March. You can tell March is when a lot more people are thinking of putting their house on the market, and they did. But our listing prices, we go all over the place. So we're going to look at our active median list price, which this is your blue line here. So your active median price of all the homes that are active on the market and not under contract. Look at what these prices are doing. They're going up, and then the average, the median price went down. It's going up, it's going down, it's going back again. This really doesn't mean anything. List price does not equal sales price. And if you had any concerns over that, if you ever had a thought of let me list high so I can negotiate, look at this gap. Look at this gap between your median list price of $369 and your median sales price of $355, essentially. In no way, nowhere on this graph do they cross. Nowhere on this graph do they cross. So in fact, which your orange line here is your sold median price. Here it is. Here it is. And interesting enough, I just want to show you a little funny relationship in the gap of these two lines. Where the price goes high, the sales price goes low. Look, here we go. List price high, sales price low. And then watch what happens here in April. Sales price is low, or list price low, sales price high. You had a little weird dip right here because this is, September, October again. There's like always a little dip. This is right when people go to school. This is right after people get to school. They're getting back in their routine. So everything kind of has a little dip. And then November was kind of the only time you actually saw this go up and this go up. But then we reset. Here goes average down, average up. And then here they're kind of all in the upswing because again, you still have, it's almost like right after school and right after the holidays. There's a little uptick. But this graph literally explains the reasons why you don't want to list high and negotiate down, because your home sits longer and you reduce, and ultimately those average prices are going to be much lower. But overall, you can see toward 2026, we are overall a little lower, but we are going into the selling season. So when you're getting into March, April, May, you are going to see that uptick in sales. April, May, June, those are going to be really hot months for us for sales. Now let's talk about absorption. So I keep hearing that, oh my God, there's so much inventory. There's so much inventory. I want to know where. Where are you seeing so much inventory? Is there more than maybe what you saw 3 or 4 years ago? Certainly there is. But let's talk about that. April of 2025. Actually, let's go May, June. June of 2025 was our highest inventory. Almost 5.5 months supply of inventory. That's pretty much a buyer's market. It's almost a buyer's market. Felt like a buyer's market. Everything was slow like a buyer's market. But since then, look, July, August, September, October, November, and December, and January. We have fallen, guys. The inventory is actually reduced. So let's not listen to what's going on there. I'm showing you the real data. The inventory is actually come down. And for those sellers who have great condition and price their homes right, their homes are selling very, very quickly. And again, this is the average. This is Northeast Florida. So if you're in a certain area and your absorption rate could be much higher, you also could be in an area where your absorption rate could be much lower. Real estate is hyper local, which means down to the neighborhood itself. It's not just Northeast Florida. It's not just this county. It is just your neighborhood. It is just your home. So there's so many little things that could change the market. And your home could have its own special market. And we can talk about that. So let's talk about this. Here we go. We had our lowest month supply of inventory in January, February. Now this makes total sense because when you come off of December, a lot of people are not listing their homes. In fact, a lot of people take their homes off the market at the end of the year and say, hey, I'm going to wait till March. And I'm going to relist my home because I want to wait for all the spring break buyers. And guess what? That's what they did. Pretty common year over year. We see this trend happen. It's actually a really smart strategy. Why increase the days on market if it's the least amount of buyers? You also have the least amount of seller competition. So to each his own. Let's talk about list to sales price ratios here. Up here, so a year ago, we were sitting at 94% of lists. So list to sales price, homes were selling about 94% of the list price. We dipped down to our lowest. It went down to 93. So this was our highest and this was our lowest. We are kind of coming back up over. We are still on the low end. So if you are a seller, if you're a homeowner and you're thinking of selling your home and you are interviewing and you need to be asking these listing agents, if they're coming, you're interviewing, what is your list to sales price ratio? The average right now in the MLS is 94. Okay, we're still at 94. Now in January, it was 93. 93. So if you were to hire an agent and they are telling you that the average is 93%, that's great. What are you getting? What is your average list to sales price ratio? So you, of course, want to hire an agent that is getting more than the average, which means they are having honest conversations with you. They are being very honest about pricing, condition, marketing, positioning, so that you are able to get the most views, the most eyes, the most buyers into your home, which would equal more showings, better offers, and more money in your pocket. This is how the top real estate professionals do it. So the average realtor is 94% of list price. That is 6%. That there are some homeowners that are leaving on the table. Believe me, if there was somebody saying, hey, here's my compensation, here's my fee for service, this is exactly what you're paying for. So you are paying for the agent to get you more money. So by paying an experienced, great negotiating real estate professional, you are in fact you are getting a return on your investment. You are getting a return on your investment because you want someone that is getting more than 94% of the list price. Let's be honest. You want that. Days on market. They're kind of going all over the place. A year ago, they were 72. Now we're at 88. Our high point was January, was almost 90 days on market was the average. Again, this is all Northeast Florida, so that doesn't mean that your neighborhood average is 90. I have seen neighborhood averages that are already 140 days is the average for that neighborhood. So real estate is hyper local, it is hyper specific, and you really need, again, an expert. They don't need to be they don't need to live in your neighborhood to be an expert. They need to know how to look at the data. Hiring a real estate expert does not necessarily mean you're hiring the person that lives in the neighborhood. They might know a lot about the neighborhood. They might know a lot about the characteristics about the neighborhood, but guess what? Buyers can look that up on their own. More often than not, buyers they already know what neighborhoods they want because their friends already live there. They're on St. John's Mom. They're on the moms groups. They're on the ladies groups. They already know these things. So yes, your agent needs to be knowledgeable, but a real expert can find out the data. They can find out about your neighborhood. They can find out about your HOA. They can find out about what makes it cool. You could actually share that information. But most importantly, they need to understand the data here and how to interpret that, because if they can't understand the data, then they're not going to be able to properly position your home to get the most views and the most eyeballs on your home. And that is what makes you the most money, is more eyeballs. More eyeballs that are looking at your home. They want to come in. So this is strategic pricing, positioning, and marketing. It all goes together. If you want, we have a list of 35 questions to interview a listing agent. I highly suggest that you download this because as a homeowner, you should be interviewing every professional. If you are interviewing 3 people to get a gutter quote, or you're interviewing 10 people for a pool, you certainly should be interviewing at least 3 people to sell your largest financial investment. This is important. You want to know and you want to see it in writing, not just guess, not just hire who's popular, not just hire who's cute, but who actually has a proven track record to get the job done. Days on market varies. This is all. So let's start. Here's kind of our overview, but let's get into, here we go. Our average list price in actives is 527. Our average sales price is 460. So this is the MLS average, and 88 days on market is our average days on market. So let's break this down by price point. We're going to go to percent change. So this has to do with this month. Sold listings this month of 2026 or in March as compared to March of 2025. Of course, if you're buying something for $50,000, we've gone up. See what price points are increasing or decreasing. So the 70 to 80,000, they had an increase in sales, decrease, increase here, decrease, decrease, decrease. So here we are, we've got big decreases. Here's our 180 to 199 had a 28% increase in sales. But these groups, take a look at this, a 42% decrease, 23% decrease, 26% decrease, 14% decrease in sales, 24% decrease in sales, 21%. Everything else has a decrease in sales since last year. Look at all these different price points. If you are in the million, so not as big a change. So you had 120 homes that sold in the plus million range that in March of last year as compared to 109 this year. So overall, we've seen a 23% decrease in sales in the month of March this year as compared to last year. So just remember, no matter where you are, real estate is hyper local and real estate markets can change really fast. For instance, things that might be out of our control, such as environmental factors, political factors, and economic factors, all can have an effect on real estate and the way buyers and sellers view real estate. For instance, anything that has the potential to impact their finances is going to likely impact their motivation and drive to go out and look at properties. So even though a buyer may be completely motivated this week, something can happen tomorrow and it will completely change the way that they feel and think about their home buying process. It could stall it or even stop it. So always keep in mind that real estate changes very quickly, and you never know when that shift might be for the positive, the negative, or it just stays stable and stagnant. So whenever you're looking to sell your home, ensuring that you have a strategic marketing plan that properly positions your market in the eyes of the buyers so that you are now creating a highly desirable, sellable product that one or more buyers will want to jump on in the first 30 days. Make sure you check out our team's free guides. We have 35 questions to ask a listing agent. And if you're tired of being solicited by tons of realtors every time you ask a realtor type advice, what's my home worth? What should I do? I'm thinking of selling. I want to do this. And you don't want to be bombarded by hundreds of realtors. We have a private homeowner community that is zero solicitation. Yes, it is run by myself, but this is so that I can control it and that you have a safe place to ask your questions. So no matter if you're in Northeast Florida or somewhere else in the United States, many of the things that work to sell a home will be true, and we're here to give you advice. So many times homeowners want to ask questions before they put their home up for sale because you may not be thinking of selling your home for 6 months or a year, and we actually want to be involved in that process. But don't worry, there's no requirement to use us, so feel free to join our community, ask your questions, get great advice from a 19-year real estate veteran and a local Jacksonville resident who was born and raised here. I know just about every part of the city, and it's my pleasure to give advice to homeowners like you on ways to raise the value of their home and how to strategically position the home. I don't have any skin in the game. You can hire our team or not hire our team. I'm going to give you the real advice, and so you'll know it's going to be true without the pressures of feeling like you're being sold to or someone that just wants to get your listing or get your listing sold quickly. Depending on what your needs are, we will be here to answer your questions.